This quote here, MacDonald on the internet reviewed your book, and I didn't lift it, but I had missed it. I presume you said it. He quotes you: Jews actually do not want to understand their past, or at least those aspects of their past that have to do with the hatred directed at them, since understanding may threaten other elements of the complex and often contradictory identities.
Yeah.
We discussed about this.
That was one of the more provocative statements I made. It's at the end of Esau's tears.
Okay.
And I think it goes back to what I said before about how the painful parts of our identity are obviously the parts that are most difficult for us to do something with. And if you begin to look at those painful parts and the whole thing begins to come apart, it's dangerous. And I think that, by the way, not all Jews have that experience. Many of them find it perfectly consistent, or at least perfectly satisfying. But I think if many of them are exposed to these other views, they do begin to doubt everything. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. I could change the group. Americans do not want to believe what we now know, let's say, about the dropping of the bomb in Hiroshima. Americans don't want to believe, what's her name, Michelle Bachmann is her name, said that the founding fathers wanted to destroy slavery. Well, she didn't know what she's talking about. Okay, those things, these aren't religious beliefs, by the way. They're more American cultural and patriotic beliefs. They're in that same kind of category. They're painful. They don't quite fit into the simplistic picture that many people need to believe something.
So what exactly would be painful? What is it that you're suggesting they don't want to face?
Well, for instance, these reckless rights. Did this actually happen? They would deny it at a minute. I mean, I've come across this many times. We didn't do that. We didn't say that. They were, it's just blank rejection. This couldn't be. And I think that's because they've never been exposed to it.
And so an example would be of what they...
Well, let's say what happened you want religion or you want history? What happened in the 48 war was pretty much that they were driven out. Now, the line I got when I was a kid is that they were invited out by the Arabs. Said, come out of your homes, back behind the battle lines, we'll kill the Jews and you can go back. Well, that's a total falsehood. This other book by Joan Peters said that most of the Arabs that came into this area, the Palestinians, came in the modern period to benefit from the economic development that Jews and others were bringing to it. That's nonsense. It's just completely wrong. That was greeted as a great work and a great contribution to knowledge and so on by a lot of very prestigious people. So there are lots of things like that. I think that you can just say, all right, that's verifiable. Now, in the Bible, I mean, I give you examples. Jewish kids say, what, Joshua killed everybody? They don't know it. Or if they know it, they don't quite, they never really think about what does that mean. He went in and put the sword to everybody, kids in the cradle and old women and so on. That's what Joshua did. He's our hero. I mean, I could go on in that vein. There are plenty of things like that. Now, they would say, a defender would say, yes, there was that, but we have a way of explaining that. Now, with Joshua, friend, I'll give you an example. This is an endless book. They did that because God had made them believe that these were really demons. And that's why they kill their animals, too. They were the Canaanites or the people in Jericho and so on had to be killed all because they really weren't even human. All right, that's an example of Talmudic commentary. It's not in there. It doesn't say that. It does say, by the way, that God forced, how do you put it, clouded the minds or whatever, of the people of Jericho to fight to the end so that they would be completely destroyed. All right, so God's in on it. And that, you have to, well, God's doing some kind of strange things. The Amalekites are seen as being terrible because they attacked the Israeli, people of Israel from behind. Right. What did the Israelis do about everybody around them? I mean, you say my point is that if you make a nonpartisan accounting of this, it doesn't look quite the same as the official story. I'm not saying mine is true. I'm just saying some people don't want to hear it. They have not heard it, or if they hear it, they deny that it's true.
Just a couple more and we'll wind up.
Okay.
Judging by all this research, all these things we've been talking about, I'll ask you a naive question. Just to, where does anti-Semitism come from?
The devil. Kevin and others, people who really want to put it into some sort of evolutionary perspective, I think they have some interesting things. It seems that there is in the human psyche, developing maybe in the eons, the prehistory even, the need to have enemies. It's a trait, a suspicion. I would call it a beneficial paranoia, and it may be really something that's like that, deep in our structure. It really does seem that threats and enemies unite people. We talked about that in the beginning. So there may be something right there. I think is also simply that, and this is again, Kevin, we as groups fight over scarce materials. And Jews have fought with other people over scarce materials. Let's put it in a very abstract way. Where does it come from ultimately? Ultimately, we have real conflicts with each other. And we build up all kinds of ideological structures around it. I mean, think about sexual jealousies. Not that this can be worked into the Jewish thing, but those are real. I mean, and every society has to deal with them. I mean, there are various ways of keeping women apart or letting men have more than one wife, but that's a real thing, and it leads to conflict. And men kill each other over sexual jealousies, and it seems like it's there in practically every branch of the animal kingdom. So I mean, I could just say anti-Semitism in that sense is part of our pre-civilized heritage and our structures. Now, of course, what morality is all about is trying to control those things. And that's what I would say. If you want to understand anti-Semitism, it's because you want to control it. It's something that's there. Ethnic hatreds, sexual jealousies, conflict over scarce resources are in the very nature of human society. It's not that the Jews are unique in that, or that the hatred of them is unique about that. It can be put in that kind of structure. And that has not been my specialty, by the way, because that is the anthropological, evolutionary psychological, and so on. I told you when I read Kevin's works, I'm interested, but I'm not persuaded. It's just a thing I'm thinking about.
I was transcribing one of the interviews I've already done with a Jewish scholar, and he said this, and it's something what we've been talking about, and I wonder if you could give me your sense of this. This is what he said. He said, any historian of anti-Semitism understands that anti-Semitism does not relate to what Jews do.
Yeah.
Jews metaphysically symbolize evil for anti-Semites, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter what Jews do. It's what they've come to mean. That's the whole point of the nature of anti-Semitism. This is a scholar.
Yeah.
Jewish scholar.
Well, I would say it's one of the classic kind of undebated matters, and it's got a lot of truth to it, and I'm giving you my sense of there is an element of truth to it. Leon Wieseltier, was he that sounds like him?
No. No, it was actually Edward Bristow, the prostitute.
Oh yeah.
But I think most of the Jewish.
Oh, I've heard it from. It's very, very common assertion, and it gets back to this thing I'm talking about. Now I wouldn't put it in that same language because I'm not sure I agree with all of it, but it's the same basic idea that it's the way you filter your perceptions that is crucial, and if you filter perceptions of Jews as being, I forgot the exact language there, but it's some demonic in some sense, yeah, that makes sense to me.
But
I
he
don't.
said, what he says, though, he says basically one subtext to this is it doesn't matter what Jews do. And
Yeah,
your argument in your book was in
that's
large part, well, it's, you can't ignore what Jews do.
exactly. To say it doesn't matter, and to say it's entirely created in the mind of non-Jews, seems to me just an overstatement. Not a falsehood, not a completely wrong thing, just an overstatement. And I think there's interaction there between what Jews really do and really believe, and what people think they do and believe.
Again, you're not of the paranoid sort, but from what I got garnered from Professor Mearsheimer in particular, was it of any consequence? Was it of any note that you were going into that venture with a partner in terms of defense, and he's Jewish?
Yeah.
Could you discuss that?
I think it was considered better. For me, I thought too. One of the things I liked to begin with when Richard Hecht invited me to teach the course, it was an example of cooperation across. We could agree enough, and we made perfectly clear we disagreed on some things. And with Richard Levy too. Richard and I got together years and years ago when I was asked to review a manuscript of his, a confidential review for a press. And I gave it a positive review, but said there's some errors that he ought to attend to in it. And this is typical procedure. The editor said, "Do you mind if we just put you directly into contact?" And I said, "Fine." And he said, "Gee, I really appreciate that. I don't know how I made those errors. It was not a big thing. It was, but you don't like to have that in a book." And he said to me, "Well, what are you working on?" And I said, "Well, this is when I was working on Esau's Tears." And it took me a while. I worked on that for maybe 7 or 8 years. He said, "Well, would you like me to look at it?" I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And he gave me a very valuable critique from like 40 pages, something like that. It just really went in. And all right, now my point is this was a very fruitful cooperation between two scholars. He didn't get angry. He didn't say, nasty things about me, nor did most of them. But I did have a couple of occasions in past. So I asked scholars in previous that you accused. I had one example of a guy just freaked out. And again, he's a reputable scholar. Just some guys, you touch them in a place and it just makes them go.
Did you feel like you were sticking your neck out with Esau's Tears? In the context, I spoke with Professor Mearsheimer, and he told me that they were paranoid as they were going in. He told me him and Walt spent $16,000 out of their own pocket to hire fact checkers above and beyond the normal thing because they expected.
Yeah.
And I ask you this too because the nature of your book. There are going to be so many fronts that people are going to be going over with a magnifying glass.
Absolutely.
Could you elaborate on that?
Well, that is a big issue. And you're quite right. I think the ADL does this. There are millions of dollars sitting there to finance just that kind of thing, to find any fault in somebody who crosses the line or just doesn't say what people want to hear. Yeah, it's an issue. I worry about it. I was just thinking, I get it, since I do tend to take on big topics, and I may blunder on things I don't know. I would be the first to recognize that. And when you got thousands of people checking your facts, what I find interesting is this guy, his name is Wistrick, he's a big Israeli historian, who is certainly very, very knowledgeable. But I criticize him on the first pages of Esau's Tears, and he's the one who wrote this terrible review. Just terrible. And the point is he talked about things that were wrong in it, but they really aren't. There's so many mentioned, and some of them are just awful. Just really, I thought, how can a man honestly do this? What's going on in his mind? Is he so, by the way, it is a code of honor that if you review a book that criticizes your book, you either refuse in the first place to review it, or you make very clear in your review that you're criticized. You didn't do that at all. Didn't even mention it. Now that's a very major violation of scholarly ethics. Doesn't seem to have affected his stature in any way, but.
Okay, well, thank you. You know, I was